Before you decide this is just another video about ignoring toxic people, let me challenge you with something uncomfortable. What if the reason they keep bothering you has nothing to do with them and everything to do with what they can still control inside you? Stay with me, because if you understand this one shift, you will never look at conflict the same way again. Most people spend years trying to win arguments, defend their name, prove their worth, or finally say the perfect sentence that will silence a toxic person. And it never works, not permanently, because the real game was never about words. It was about power, emotional power, psychological leverage. And whether you realize it or not, every time someone can trigger you, rush you, or pull you into drama, they are borrowing control over your internal state. But what if today you discovered the one thing that instantly removes that leverage? What if you could walk into any room, face any difficult personality, receive any disrespectful comment, and remain completely unshaken? Not pretending, not suppressing, not boiling inside, but genuinely steady. By the end of this video, you are going to see toxic behavior differently. You are going to understand why arguing makes you weaker, why over-explaining makes you smaller, and why the calmest person in the room is always the most powerful. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So do not skip ahead. Do not half listen, because the shift I am about to explain will either confirm what you have always suspected or completely transform how you handle difficult people from this moment forward. Let's slow this down and really understand what's happening when a toxic person bothers you. Because most people misdiagnose the problem. They think the issue is the insult, the disrespect, the gossip, the passive-aggressive comment. But that's not the real issue. The real issue is the reaction it pulls out of you. Toxic people are not fueled by logic. They are fueled by emotional response. They study it, they wait for it, they provoke until they see it. The raised voice, the defensive explanation, the long message trying to clarify what you really meant. That moment when your nervous system shifts and your heart rate climbs, that is the moment they gain leverage. You have to understand something deeper here. Control does not always look loud or aggressive. Sometimes control looks like someone getting you to explain yourself when you don't owe an explanation. Sometimes control looks like someone planting doubt in your mind so you replay the conversation all night. Sometimes control looks like making you feel small so they can feel significant. And the currency they use to purchase that control is your reaction. Think about it psychologically. When someone criticizes you unfairly and you immediately defend yourself, what are you communicating? You are communicating that their opinion has authority over your emotional state. You are signaling that they can press a button and produce a predictable output. That predictability becomes power. Toxic behavior is rarely random. It is strategic. It is a pattern. They test, they observe, they adjust. If sarcasm gets a reaction, they use more sarcasm. If guilt works, they use more guilt. If public embarrassment unsettles you, they repeat it. It's conditioning, and every emotional outburst reinforces the cycle. Now, here's the part that might make you uncomfortable. Many intelligent, capable, strong people still fall into this trap, not because they are weak, but because they care. They care about being understood. And toxic individuals exploit that care. You think you're defending your integrity. They think they're winning the interaction. A toxic person says something subtly disrespectful. You respond with frustration. They lean back, calm, almost amused. Suddenly, you look emotional, and they look composed. The narrative shifts. Now you're the overreactive one. They push the domino, but you're the one who looks unstable. That is why reaction is their reward. It validates their influence. It reassures them that they can enter your emotional space without permission. And the more expressive the reaction, the stronger the reinforcement. Anger, tears, long explanations, all of it feeds the same mechanism. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about understanding emotional economics. Every response you give is a transaction. Ask yourself, is this worth the cost? Is this person worth the energy I am about to invest? because attention is a form of respect. Emotional energy is a form of investment. And when you repeatedly invest in someone who disrespects you, you unintentionally teach them that access to you is cheap. There's also a neurological layer to this. When someone provokes you and you react, your brain releases stress hormones. Your body prepares for threat. You become activated. That activation narrows your thinking. You speak faster, you think less clearly, and in that state, you're easier to manipulate. Meanwhile, if they remain calm, they maintain cognitive advantage. So when you react impulsively, you are not just losing composure, you are surrendering clarity. And toxic people know this instinctively. They may not use psychological language, but they understand cause and effect, push, reaction, power. But here's what disrupts the entire system. When the push comes and nothing moves, no raised voice, no defensive speech, no visible agitation, just steady eye contact and measured tone. Or even simpler, a brief, neutral response. It creates a psychological vacuum. They expect friction. They get stillness. They expect escalation. They get composure. And without the reaction, their behavior has no reinforcement. It becomes ineffective. And ineffective behavior eventually stops because it no longer produces results. This is why emotional non-reactivity is not weakness. It is strategic strength. It removes the reward. Imagine trying to start a fire with no oxygen. You can strike the match again and again, but without air, it dies out. Your reaction is the oxygen. Now let me be clear. This does not mean you tolerate abuse. It means you refuse to energize it. There is a difference. You can address disrespect later calmly and deliberately, but you do not perform emotionally in the moment just because someone tried to provoke you. When you begin to see reactions as currency, you become more selective. You start asking, who deserves access to my emotional world? Who has earned the right to affect my inner state? And that shift alone changes everything. Because once someone realizes they cannot pull you into emotional chaos, they lose interest, not because they respect you more immediately, but because you are no longer useful to their need for control. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause before you respond. Notice the urge to defend, to explain, to correct, and then ask yourself a simple question. Am I about to give them exactly what they want? The moment you understand that your reaction is the prize, you stop handing it out so freely. And when you stop rewarding toxic behavior, it starves. Remember this, the person who controls their reaction controls the outcome. Now, once you understand that toxic people feed on reaction, the next step becomes clear. If reaction is their fuel, then emotional non-reactivity is your power. And I want to be precise with that word, power. Not silence out of fear, not pretending you do not care, not shutting down emotionally. I am talking about disciplined composure, intentional restraint, the ability to feel everything and still choose your response carefully. Emotional non-reactivity is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming stable. Most people confuse intensity with strength. They think raising their voice proves confidence. They think quick comebacks prove intelligence. They think visible anger proves dominance. But real dominance is quiet. It is measured. It is controlled. When someone tries to provoke you and you remain steady, you send a powerful psychological message. You communicate that your inner state is self-governed, that your emotions are not available for hijacking, that your nervous system does not answer to their impulses. That is intimidating because manipulation only works when it produces movement. If I can make you defensive, I have moved you. If I can make you angry, I have moved you. But if I cannot move you emotionally, I cannot steer you. Non-reactivity disrupts the manipulator's map. They expect escalation, they expect friction, they expect drama. Instead, they encounter calm, and calm is disorienting to someone who thrives on chaos. There is a philosophical layer to this. The Stoics understood something profound centuries ago. They believed that power begins with mastery of the self, not mastery of others, not dominance over a room, but governance over one's own reactions. Because the only thing fully within your control is how you interpret and respond to external events. When you react impulsively, you surrender that control. You allow someone else's behavior to dictate your internal state. In that moment, you are not leading yourself, you are being led. Emotional non-reactivity is leadership of the self. And leadership requires pause. There is always a space between stimulus and response. Most people collapse that space. The comment comes, and the reaction follows immediately. The insult lands, and the defense rises instantly. But if you widen that pace, even by a few seconds, everything changes. You breathe, you observe, you choose. That pause is where maturity lives. Non-reactivity does not mean passivity. It does not mean you tolerate disrespect indefinitely. It does not mean you never speak up. It means when you do speak, it is deliberate, it is grounded, it is strategic. There is a difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is emotional and immediate. Response is thoughtful and measured. Reaction is about release. Response is about resolution. When you respond calmly to someone who